Hello, everyone. This is Travis J. Vernon, and welcome to today's podcast. Well, it's another beautiful morning in the West. I ended up passing off my guide trip for this morning down to one of the rookies because my wife called me yesterday and said, hey, Kane, who's my now 4-year-old grandson, would like to come over and spend the night and go camping and fishing and fun things. Now, when Kane says that kind of stuff, a lot of times he's just meaning imagination, camping and fishing. He likes to pretend that the couch is his truck and he'll back his truck up to hook up the boat, and we do all these things via imagination, which I love. And I really, really hope that the school system doesn't ruin that for him, because I think that sometimes we just destroy kids and take away their imagination and make them conform to how we want them to act and what we want them to do. And that was one of the big struggles I had in my life, because at the time I didn't understand ADD. And I've said this before, I don't think it's a disorder. It's just a difference in how different people's brains function. But Kane has an amazing imagination, and he plays and just has fun and spends time outside. And it's scary to me seeing how we've allowed, not only in this country, but in other countries as well, children to become, I don't know if I want to say addicted to screens, because Kane will use a screen too. He likes his tablet and he'll watch certain videos. He loves to watch documentaries. He'll watch documentaries about moose and bighorn sheep. He was just watching some things about tornadoes because he thought that was fascinating. That was a little bit more tricky one because I had to be careful that I didn't let him see things that were too traumatic. He got a little bit afraid of the wind because in Wyoming, it's windy a lot of the time. Well, we had a kind of a microburst of wind, and it took his trampoline from his house while he was standing in the window. So he got to see his trampoline get ripped off the supports, hit his father's car, which broke the windshield, and then blew down to his neighbor's house about 8 houses away. So he was yelling, and his dad came out to see what was going on. And when Kane was telling us the story, he got really quiet at this part, and he said, and then my dad said a bad word. Yeah, I'd have probably said some bad words too. Nobody likes having to switch out a windshield. It's kind of one of life's annoying things. But since that moment, he's been a little bit more concerned about wind. If the wind starts getting really bad, he'll get nervous and want to come in. So I didn't want him to see things with wind that would scare him. Because I had a nephew, love him to death, who watched Twister and then became deathly afraid of any kind of wind or weather situations. And he's grown out of it as he's gotten older, but it caused some issues. Sometimes the things we allow children to see affects them greatly. For a short amount of time, I ran an outfitter in northern Utah, and I had a house right on the border of Utah and Idaho. And I just had 1 acre, just a small piece of property. Had an old barn that was fun to explore, a small old house, and then directly in my backyard, say I had 10 feet of grass, no fence, and then straight cornfield. So I had 6-7 foot tall corn for as far as you could see behind my house. Loved it. It was a fun place to live. The Logan Valley in northern Utah is beautiful with the giant Wellsville Mountains. They're so steep and majestic. It's just a cool place to be. In the wintertime, it's not as cool. It's a big dish. So you get inversion in there, which is kind of a layer of pollution. And then it's very, very cold, and it just sucks that cold down into the bottom of that dish. And I didn't like it as much. I like living in a place where you get the blue skies on the blue sky days, where you get the big snowstorms, but then the blue sky comes back out. Everything's blanketed in white, but you can see for 100 miles. When you get that warm spell where it gets up to about 30, 32, and the snowflakes are the size of teacups, and they're just slowly falling, and you get the low ceiling. Those can be some amazing fly fishing days. I've had some of the best dry fly fishing in my life in February. And those are some of my favorite winter days. Well, we were up in Logan area. I was north of Logan. And I had all this corn in my backyard. And at the time I had My oldest sister had 3 children, and they wanted to come visit and spend the night at my house. So I thought, fine. My sister drove them up because she wanted to see the place. So I had my oldest nephew, his younger brother, and then their younger sister. So they get to the house, we're playing games, we're having a good time. They're on the younger side. I'd say the youngest, I want to say she was probably 6. So I think it went 6, 8, 10-ish, about that range. Well, everything's happy until they ask if it's okay if they go out in the backyard and explore. I'm like, yeah, go have fun. Be careful in the barn because there's some wasp nests, so just be careful, but go enjoy yourselves, have a good time. It's not 5 minutes later they come running back into the house. The oldest is shaken, but the 2 youngers are visibly upset, crying, almost to the point where we can't calm them down. And they're talking about aliens. And I'm kind of trying not to laugh, but I'm joking around. I'm like, what's going on? And they're just like, we want to go home. We can't stay here. We want to go home. We can't stay here. So I call my sister, and she lives about 3 hours. So I get in touch with her. I'm like, hey, she had just gotten home too. I'm like, your kids are refusing to stay here. I'm going to start driving back your way if you want to meet me halfway. So that's what we ended up doing. Well, on the drive, I found out that they had just recently stayed with my younger brother, who thought it would be a great idea to let them watch the movie Signs. And I'm not sure if you've ever seen the movie Signs, but there's aliens in cornfields, and they'd been having nightmares. And so as soon as they walked into the backyard and saw all this corn, all they could think about was, you can't go in the corn because there's aliens. Oh, what a mess that was. All from my little brother letting them watch something they probably shouldn't have watched at that age. Which gets back to the tablet thing. Screens and tablets and things like that, I think, have become too much of a babysitter. I'm a Gen Xer, so as I was growing up, we could go outside and play. We'd usually be able to play until the streetlights went out, depending on where we were. My 2 older sisters, when we were stationed in Japan, would get on the train on the weekends and go into downtown Tokyo and go shopping at 12 and 14. I would take off and go into the mountains, depending on where I was, when I was 7, 8, with a BB gun. I'd be gone all day. Just me and the pup. It's more difficult anymore, I think, to really stay on top of what the kids are watching on those things. But I also think it's really important to take the time to be involved with what your kids are watching and being entertained by. When you're tired, when you just get home from work, when you need to get something done, it's easier just to hand them a tablet or have them watch a show. It's harder to do some of these other things. But when you spend the time with the kids outside, when you spend the time teaching them about the world around you, you'll be surprised how much they take from that. When I first got home from work yesterday, Kane wanted to set up the tent. He wanted to set up the mattress and sleeping bag and start playing. And we were playing an imagination game where the dogs were wolves and the wolves were coming to get us. And we had to stay locked up in the tent so that the wolves couldn't get us. And it's just fun. It was just fun things to do. And then I decided, hey, let's take a break and have a snack and we'll watch a show for a second and then go do something else. And we just happened to have YouTube on, and my algorithm is set so that it shows things like fishing or documentaries on animals or hunting shows. It pulled up an Outdoor Boys episode where he was camping and it was really raining. He was trying to get dry firewood. And at the moment that we started watching it, he was splitting this wood. And he splits the first piece of wood and he goes, oh, this wood's wet all the way through. And Kane looks at me and said, well, that's not going to help. It's going to be hard to start a fire with wet wood. Now, he's 4. And he's already figured out that starting a fire with wet wood is going to be more difficult. I love that he has that attention to detail. He's already grasped some of those things because it'll make it easier for me when I start teaching about the wilderness. And I understand that times have changed from the time when I was young and the things that I would do to how the world is now. There's a lot less stay-at-home parents. There's a lot of parents who have to have a dual income just to survive. I have employees joke around with me that it's not fair that I talk about how I bought a house when I was young. I was a junior in college when I bought my first house. Like, well, that's not fair because you could buy them back then for 18 raspberries and a carrot. Well, it's not really the case, but I understand there's different difficulties for the youth of today. I think we've done a great disservice in the United States by not teaching basic things in school and pushing people away from blue-collar jobs, talking about how important college is, talking about the only way you're ever going to succeed is being a doctor or a lawyer or having a college degree. And I think those things are important. I think that you should get a degree of some sort. I don't think it needs to be college, though. I think trade schools are outstanding. I think that apprenticeships are outstanding. It's hard when we bombard the youth with constant things, always keeping them busy. We've gone away from downtime, meditation, just being quiet. So I think it's important as a parent or grandparent to stay more focused on what the kids are seeing and not thinking that you have to fill every single moment with an activity. When the kids are so busy with all the after-school activities, sports, everything else, that they don't have time to just play, to just go outside and watch a turkey vulture fly around or ask questions about nature, to actually see animals in the wild, to experience the wind and the weather and the out of doors, and not via a screen, is very important for the kids. It's important for youth. I'm not going to say that their life is harder now than when I was a kid. It's just different. They have the amount of information at their fingertips that I dreamed of having when I was a child. A lot of what I had to find and discover, I had to do via old school library. And if the library I was going to didn't have the things I was interested in, that was just too bad. I'd have to buy books. That was one of the ways that my mother would get me to go shopping and be good for the day while she got the things that she needed to get when we made a trip to Salt Lake City, is that if I was good, she would take me to Barnes and Nobles and I would get a field guide or a book about bonsai or a book about bird identification. Those were the things that fascinated me. She knew that and she supported it. Now, as being involved in a book and reading a book and going out and using a book to identify birds any different than handing a kid a tablet? To a point, I think it is. If you just have a tablet and you don't go outside, it's different. Now, if you download the Cornell Labs Merlin bird identification app onto that tablet and then send the kid outside with that so he can listen to birdsong and be able to identify what bird it is that's singing and be able to plug in the data to figure out what bird it is and to learn more about them, that's just a level of intelligence that is exceptional, and it's using the resources that you have at your fingertips. I'm just saying that we need to use them well. Saturday mornings when I was a kid, the first thing I would do is wake up at about 5 a.m, grab a blanket and a pillow, head down to my favorite couch, turn on the cartoons, and I'd have to keep it low enough that I wouldn't wake anybody else up, and I would watch my cartoons. It was usually consist of Gummy Bears and Smurfs, G.I. Joe, and once those couple of cartoons were over, I was out the door, chasing birds, building rockets, hunting fox. I started running trap lines when I was about 12, which my mom wasn't super stoked about that because she'd have to drive me down to a lot of my trap lines and then wait while I checked traps. But I learned a lot of lessons doing those things. The level of lesson you learn from doing versus watching is different. One of my professors at the University of Utah talked a lot about the difference between hearing and retention, hearing and reading and the level of retention, hearing, reading, and watching and the level of retention, and then teaching and the level of retention. When you teach something to someone else, you retain most of that information. If someone teaches you something and you just hear it, you retain almost none of it. If you hear it and read it, you retain more. If you hear it, read it, and watch it, you retain even more. But when you teach someone else, you retain most of it. I will get asked questions by my grandkids now that I do not know the answers to. And the first thing out of my mouth is, I'm not sure. Let's find out together. And we will research it and look it up and figure out what it is. Those are the questions that change the world. Just asking the why. It's really important to teach children and the youth how to think for themselves, how to do their own research, and not just adopt someone else's opinion, someone else's video, someone else's reel or TikTok as your opinion now. But be able to look at all the different avenues, look at the pros and cons, and then be able to critically think on their own and adopt their very own opinion after research. How have we lost that? How have we lost the ability to reason out a solution? How have we gotten away from teaching people about common sense educational research? We don't debate anymore, even in the highest levels of politics. It is mudslinging. We don't debate topics. We debate personalities, what they do on their time off. And we criticize a president for going golfing or going on a vacation with their family or visiting a foreign country. It starts in the youth. If you teach children how to reason, how to research, and how to critically think, those are things they will carry through their entire life. No, I'm not saying that they're going to make the best choices. You can still come to a conclusion where your opinion is, from my perception, wrong. But if you've done the research, good for you for forming your own opinion. The older I've gotten, the more I've changed opinions on certain things. The more knowledge you gain, the more it can change your paradigm. And I'm okay with that. I just hope that we can start giving the youth more tools to be able to do that on their own and not just from looking at a tablet. I try and be that uncle and grandfather that takes the time to teach the youth when they have questions about the world or nature or the environment around them. Whether it's just something as simple as a hobby or maybe a video they've seen and they have a question about it, I want them to feel comfortable that they can come to me and know that I'm not going to criticize their opinion, but I'm going to help them to get the information so that they can form their own. I don't want to indoctrinate people. I want people to be able to critically think and do what they think is best based on their beliefs. And if we get back to that as a society, I think you'll see some big changes. I really do. I guess that wasn't too much of storytelling today. A little bit more of a soapbox. But there's lessons to be learned from everything in life. And I hope we learn some lessons from the things that we've done in the past that we can now adopt to those youth and children that are growing up, that we can help them to have a better future. Instead of being afraid for the future, have some hope, and hope that we're putting it in people's hands that are going to do a better job than we've done. It's the whole point of being a parent or a grandparent, is to make the life better for those coming behind. I think there's been some times in this recent history where we haven't focused on that, but we've been a little bit too selfish and greedy. Whether it's the environment or our own personal lives, it's so important for us to teach the youth so that they can have a better life than we've had. I want them to be able to go out and experience all the things that I was able to experience as a kid, and to use all the knowledge at their fingertips to make it even better. What a fascinating time to be alive. It's weird being the generation that went from not having it to now having it, seeing the change and being a part of it. I look forward to seeing what these youth can do between now and when I pass. I'm excited for what's to come. Hopefully here in the next little bit, I'll be able to get my wife and grandson out. We'll go do a little fishing today. We're going to go to church first, though. It's good to have a day off once in a while. Get your head on straight. And then I'll get back out and start adventuring a little bit more. Got quite a bit of guide season left, but I'm more than halfway through, so that's a good feeling. It's a good feeling and a bad feeling. To be honest, I love this time of year, but it's draining. I get tired. So it's nice having this little bit of time off to recenter, talk with everyone, and enjoy some time with my family. So get out there and live your stories.